Good day, student. I'm so happy to be with you this very day. You're welcome to this presentation. First of all, I congratulate all you dear learners who passed the 2022 assignment. You are qualified to write this forthcoming examination because you passed your assignment. So I congratulate you for the hard work you put in that made you to pass your assignment. Today, we are going to have a presentation. I'm going to give you a presentation. What is this presentation all about? It's an examination-based presentation. So it's a presentation where I'm going to guide you on how to handle, on how to take your examination. I'm referring to 2022 examination. So it's an examination-based presentation, not content-based presentation. So you sit down and relax while I take you through this presentation for the next 45 minutes to 1 hour. My name is Edo Triumph, your contact tutor for Computer Literacy 2. This presentation is for who? This presentation is for students who are taking diploma in junior primary education, DJPE CL12, diploma in early childhood education, DEC CL12, and diploma in secondary education, DSE CL21. Why is this slide necessary? It is necessary because computer literacy is a compulsory module for all students of Institute for Open Learning, IOL, Namibia. So I give classes in all these computer literacy module, so it's good for you to know which presentation is for you. So if you take any of these three programs, then this presentation is for you. This presentation is for 2022 April, August, and November examination. So do not expect another presentation when it comes to 2022 examination. This presentation will guide you irrespective if you are going to write April, August, or November, comes 2022. Before we go deep into the presentation, let it be very clear to all of us that this is not an examination scope. So Mr. Edo is not here to tell you the topics to read and the topics not to read. I'm not here to give you scope. In fact, at IOL, we don't give examination scope. We'll prepare you for everything that is needed in your examination. Now, let us go into the examination format. By the time you get your examination question paper, and it's good to re-emphasize again that our examination these days are online, meaning you're going to download your question paper, answer it, and upload it. So by the time you get your question paper, what is expected of you? You'll be expected or required to answer all the questions when it comes to computer literacy. If you remember in your assignment, I gave you some practical work, of which you did on the computer. You printed out the work, then you submitted it to me. Now, when it comes to the examination, you are not going to have a practical section. However, you will be required to answer questions that require or that will test your practical skills. Although there is not going to be a practical section where you are going to work on the computer, but there will be questions that will examine your practical skills. Because if you look at your course module, your course outline, you see things on Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, desktop publishing, email and internet. There are practical components in all these units. So you will be examined on how to carry out some practical things. This examination will cover the entire syllabus, or let me say the entire module. There is no situation like question will come from only this unit and question will not come from this unit. Questions will be selected across all units. So prepare for the examination by reading all your units in your study guide. Do not look down on any unit as if it is not necessary. It might be that unit that will make you to pass. You see, my lecturer used to tell me while I was in the university that, Edu, you don't know the value of 1 until you get 49. Then you will know, oh, that 1 is a big number. So that 1 can be a question that comes from a unit that you ignored. Therefore, please, when preparing for your examination, read your study guide from Genesis to Revelation. Examination guide. Here are the things that will help you to pass your examination. So at this stage, I'm going to give you the ingredients that is needed for you to pass your examination. So listen carefully. At this stage, I want you to fasten your seatbelt and pay attention to me. Don't be distracted. And everything I say here, please take it very serious and necessary. It will help you. Do not say, I did not guide you. Number 1. Review your assignment questions. Why is the review of assignment question necessary? You are distant students. We don't meet you face to face. So one of the purposes of assignment is to prepare you for the examination. Well, assignment helps you to comprehend, to understand your module. But one of the things, one of the purposes of the assignment is to prepare you for the examination. How? The format of your assignment is the same format your examination will be. The only difference is what I've told you in my preamble, in my introduction, that during your assignment, you did 1 or 2 practicals on the computer which you printed out. But in the examination, I will ask you the practical question in a theoretical form. Besides that, the structure, the format is the same thing. So if you get used to your assignment question, if you were really involved in your assignment, then you will not be taken by surprise when the examination comes, because the format is the same. Another purpose why you should review your assignment question is this. While marking your assignment, I gave some feedback. That leads me to the second point. There are some specific feedback that I gave to you. What are these feedback? Things you did wrong. I corrected you. This is how to do it. Please do it this way next time. So review your assignment will help you to avoid such mistakes in the examination. Second point that will help you. Pay attention to assignment feedback received from the marker. I mark your assignment. There is what we call specific feedback that is given to you only, meaning I wrote it on your assignment script. Hey, The way you wrote this Excel formula is not the way to write it. The way you carry out this discussion, that is not how to discuss concept. This is how you to discuss it. I gave you some specific feedback. Beside the specific feedback that you got individually, you all got the general feedback. The general feedback was uploaded onto your student portal. So if you have not downloaded, as of today, the assignment feedback, please, I implore you to download the assignment feedback of 2022 to see the common mistakes made by students and suggestions from the tutor on the best way to answer such questions. If you ignore feedback, it's like ignoring corrections. Ignoring corrections can lead to a failure. That is why the military always say, train hard, fight easy. In education, study vigorously and answer in a very easy mode. Third point, download past examination question papers. Why should you download past examination question papers? For the following reasons. If you are a military man and you are going to fight in a terrain that is already used to you, if you are going to fight in a terrain that you know the demographic area, then your fight is quite easy. If you are used to past exam question papers, then seeing the real question paper is not going to be something different. It's not going to be something that will make you panic. So getting past examination question papers prepares you better for the examination. And one secret is this, which I am going to tell you. When tutors, examiners, even at national examination, question can just be restructured because the syllabus, the module has not changed. So if you are used to the past question papers, then you are better prepared. Where can you get the past exam question papers from? Download them from your student portal and practice them. Let me caution you here. Do not download a past question paper and send to me to answer and send back to you. I am the examiner, not you. It does not help you if I answer the question and send it back to you. It does not help you. What will help you is you answer the question. Attempt to answer the question yourself. But should you get stuck while trying to answer the question, there is a question you do not understand, then contact me. I will guide you on how to answer the question, but not for me to answer the question and send for you to read. If I do that, I am not helping you. So practice with past examination question paper. The fourth one, why trying to do this? If you need help, call me. Then there is a point I will always tell my students. It's a secret. But let me tell you the secret. It's an open secret. Listen to me. The questions of all the lecturers are with you. Our 2020 questions are with you. How, Mr. Edo, how come? How can the question be with us? I don't have the questions. How can the question be with us? Is it possible? Yes, they are with you, but you do not know they are with you. Nay, when Jesus Christ told them, I'm the Messiah, I'm with you, some did not believe that he is the Messiah. They thought another Messiah is coming. Now let me tell you what I mean by saying the questions are with you. If you look at your study guide or your course outline, you will see what is known as expected learning outcome for every topic. Expected learning outcome. Let's take for example, if you talk about email, you might see expected learning outcome as that at the end of this lecture or this lesson, the student should be able to define or describe what an email is. The student should be able to discuss advantages of using an email. The student should be able to discuss the disadvantages of using an email, and so on and so forth. Expected learning outcome. I'm not for education courses here, but I'm to guide you here. Now, the expected learning outcome are the things that you are, as a student, expected to know. Those are the competencies you are expected to achieve or to have at the end of that course. My work as a tutor is now to examine you if you already know or acquired such competency, or you already know those expected learning outcome. So if I'm going to ask a question, in the expected learning outcome, it says the student should be able to describe what an email is. When I'm going to put on my question, I'm going to ask you to describe what an email is, just for me to know you have acquired that competency. So can you see all the expected learning outcome in your study guide are your questions? How do you go about it? Look at any specific learning outcome. You go to the study guide and read it. Haven't read it? Turn to the questions at the back of that unit, the practice question. Practice questions on that expected learning outcome. Because there are tasks, there are practice questions at the end of every unit for you to practice with. If, for example, in a particular expected learning outcome that says the student should be able to know how to compose and send an email with an attachment. So at the end, I want to see a student who can use, for example, Microsoft Outlook or a Gmail account to compose an email, attach a document, and send. What you should ask yourself at the end is, can I do it now? In the examination, I'm going to ask you, describe or outline how to send an email with an attachment. Opuo. That is why I told you all the questions are with you. They are the expected learning outcome in your study guide. Do not ignore it. Otherwise, if you don't pay attention to your expected learning outcome, you will just be reading without being guided. So I've discussed with you quite some points. Let me just summarize them again. Go through your your assignment question paper. Download past question papers. Get used to your course outline. Pay attention to the expected learning outcome. And if you are stuck, contact the tutor to help you. Your question will have some few multiple choice questions. Beside the multiple choice question, which are picked randomly across the module, across all units, there will be other structured questions that will ask you to define certain computer terminologies that covers the entire modules. Such terms such as URL, phishing, homepage, IP address, freeware, shareware, ROM, spyware, and so on and so forth. But I want you to take note of one thing here. This is not a scope. I kept on emphasizing that point, that this is not a scope. And it does not mean that these terms that I mentioned here are the ones that you are going to be asked. I'm just guiding you to give you an idea of what I mean by saying you might be asked to define or to explain or to discuss certain computer technologies. That's why I give you some of these terms. So do not say at the end of the examination that, Mr. Edu, I saw a question that asked me to define this particular term, but it's not in your presentation. I'm not telling you these are the terms that I'm going to ask you. Let me guide you on one thing here. Let's take, for example, I ask you to explain or describe or define or to discuss ALU, referring to this one, ALU, ALU. If you look at that ALU, it is not written in small letters. It's an acronym. It means the A stands for a particular word. The L stands for another word. The U stands for another word. So how do you answer a question like this? What should you do? First of all, give the full meaning of that word, of that acronym. ALU, arithmetic, logic, units. Arithmetic and logic units. After you have given the full meaning of ALU, then you can now discuss what it is and give example where appropriate. You're going to see a variety of other questions that you will be asked. Do not forget to familiarize yourself with these following examination words or verbs. Discuss. What does it mean? Evaluate. What does it mean? If I ask you to describe, how do you describe? Distinguish or differentiate. Let me pay a little bit of attention to distinguish and or differentiate. Let me give you an example. A question says, distinguish between shareware and freeware. Distinguish between shareware and freeware. What are you expected to do? I'm not asking you to define for me. So if you define shareware, freeware, and you stop there, well, you might get just 1 mark. What I want is bring out the differences between these two concepts. Which one is copyright? Which one is not copyright? Which one is free for a user to download without a license? Bring out the differences. So whenever you see a question that asks you to differentiate between two related concepts, what you should do is, number one, you define them first of all. After defining them, the next thing you should do is try and bring out the differences between them. You can use a tabular form, it doesn't matter, or you can just differentiate. Bring out the differences. That is what the tutor wants to see. If I read your question, can I see differences that you have brought out, or you have just given me the definition? These are some of the reasons why students fail, not paying attention to the examination well. If I say evaluate, it's different from discussion. If you evaluate, you are going to pass a kind of, it's more or less a judgment on something. You must have a conclusion. If I say evaluate the effect of the effect of internet on our society, I'm not just asking you about the advantages or disadvantages. I want to evaluate the situation and come to a conclusion. At this junction, I want to take a sample question. But let me emphasize this again and again and again and again, that these sample questions are not examination question papers, please. They are sample questions that I drew up to guide you on how to approach questions. It is one thing to know. It is another thing to know how to present your work. It's one thing to be physically fit. It's another thing to be strategic in war. Take this question, sample question. Discuss the advantages of using internet in education. If I were you, what are the things I'm going to pay attention to here? 1, I'm going to discuss, not to define, not to list, not to outline. Number 2, what am I talking about? Internet. Where? Education. 3 things here I'm going to discuss. What am I going to discuss? Internet. Where? In education. So if you discuss with me the advantages of internet that has nothing to do with education, then you are wrong. Because you have not obeyed my instruction. You can give me an example of advantages of internet. There are quite a lot of them. But the question is, that point, does it have anything to do with education? That's why students say, but I wrote quite a lot of advantages, Mr. Edu. How come did I fail? These are some of the things without paying very close attention. Most of these questions, when I put them up, they carry 3 marks. So what I do is, I give you 1 mark for giving me a fact. Take, for example, for you to answer this question, I will say 1. Keeping you updated with latest information is an advantage. Telling me that fact, that is 1 mark already. Then what should you do? You start discussing what you mean by saying latest information. You start discussing what do you mean updated information. Then give me examples. Then I can give you 2 marks for discussion. If you pay attention to most of my past question papers, you will see that whenever I ask this question, it is always 9 marks most of the times. Because most of the time I request for 3 points. So what I do is, if it's 9 marks, if you give me a fact, I give you 1 mark. If you now discuss it, I give you 2. That means 3. So 3 times 3 points now gives you 9. So you might end up just getting only 3 marks. If you mention the fact without discussing them, you might end up getting only 3 marks. Another thing that you should be very careful of is this. Avoid repeating points using synonyms. You can give me 3 points, but they mean the same thing. You only change the words. You only use synonyms. It will not work. You end up having just 1 mark. For example, a student writing for me, with internet I can get information in education. It is true. Then number 2, you say, with internet I can send information to people. It is true. But you have just told me one thing, information. So repeating into 3 places, playing around it. I can use internet to get information. I can use internet to send information. My dear, you are just telling me one thing. Kapana is Kapana. It doesn't matter where you buy it. Anyway, I love Kapana. That is why I'm always using it as an example. All right. Let us move down to another area, which is Microsoft Excel. Do you know why I was signing? Microsoft Excel, you cannot escape it. I repeat, you cannot escape it in any examination when it comes to DJPE CL12. In fact, it's the first unit you have in your study model, study guide, Microsoft Excel. You have done the practicals, fine. Now let me examine you if you know some of those things you submitted to me when you submitted your assignment and you passed them. You know, it's very funny at times when students pass assignment with 95, 98, but examination they're scoring 20, they're scoring 10, they're scoring 15. Why? They never did the assignment on their own. They gave it to people to do for them. And now when it comes to examination, because they were not involved in the assignment, they don't know how to answer the question because it looks strange to them. They've never come across it before. Do you understand what I have just said now? So you are going to see Microsoft Excel. And what are some of the related questions that comes in Microsoft Excel? It's just the introduction to Microsoft Excel. This is not a complex Microsoft Excel. It's just the preamble. That's why this topic, this course is called computer literacy. Just for you to be literate on it. We're not talking about computer science here. Let us look at some of the common questions that comes in Microsoft Excel. Remember, let me start with some of the questions. You will see a kind of a spreadsheet table like this, with data already populated there. Then comes with it are questions. It's always, after the multiple choice, take my question 1. The next question you see is Microsoft Excel. That is my format. Multiple choice. You know, multiple choice, I pick them from all the units. The multiple choice, when I'm done with multiple choice, question 2 is from unit 1 in logical order. So I take my question logically the way you find it in your course study guide. So look at this sample question. Name any cell on the spreadsheet that contains a value. The question is, do you know what is a value? What is a value in Excel? Values are numbers. Any number. So I'm asking you to tell me, to mention any cell from this table that contains numbers. Can't you see all these numbers here? Can you see all these numbers? So what are you going to write for me? For example, you can write B2, C2, B3, C5, D4. Anywhere you can see a number means there is a value there. Do you understand? Do not give me more than one cell if I ask for one. So don't dump for me about 10 cells, leaving me to select the correct one. Dumping is not allowed. Dumping means you are not sure of the answer. So when you dump for me both correct and incorrect answers, I mark you wrong even if the correct one is among the incorrect ones. It means you are not sure of the answer. Another related question. Name a cell that contains a label. A label in Excel are alphabets. So wherever you see alphabet, for example, name, raise 1, raise 2, John, Ferrari, Simon, Ronald, these are all labels. So you can tell me A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, they are all labels. Another thing that is very common in my question in Microsoft Excel is how many columns, how many rows does it have? Let me show you how to count your columns. Your columns must have an alphabet here. This is column A. This is column B, column C, column D, column E. Therefore, I have 5 columns here. I have 5 columns. Do not count this place as part of your column. I repeat, do not count this place as part of your column. Your column has an alphabet. Your column has a name. When you talk about the rows, your rows start from here. Row 1, row 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when I ask you how many columns, you should be able to tell me. How many rows, you should be able to tell me. The other question that is very necessary for you to practice is how to write formulas in Excel. How do you write your formulas in Excel? Remember, Microsoft Excel must start with an equal sign. It must start with an equal sign. Even your formula seems to be correct. Once I do not see the equal sign, I mark you wrong. Check my past examination feedback and assignment feedback and see what I'm talking about. Let us leave Excel. You remember PowerPoint? You have to practice with PowerPoint. You should be able to explain the basic step that is needed to create a PowerPoint. Advantages of internet in our society. Advantages of internet in education. What is the difference between a free whale and a share whale? So do not ignore any unit of your model. PowerPoint, practice it. Computer virus. What is a computer virus? The effect computer viruses has on a computer. How can you prevent your computer from having viruses? You must practice. Have you heard about Skype? I'm sure most of us must have heard about it, especially during lockdown. What is the purpose of Skype? What do we do with Skype? What are the things that are needed for me to use Skype? What are the advantages of using Skype as a teacher? Read more about it. Email, and so on. So read all these points that I mentioned in my presentation. Although not limited to this, read everything, but pay attention to them. Microsoft Publisher. You remember how to use Microsoft Publisher for creation of graphics? What and what can we do with Microsoft Publisher? Please practice it. A very last thing that I will discuss in this presentation is this. This module is divided into 2. 80% of your question covers computer literacy. 20% of your question covers library science. It's unfortunate that some students try to ignore the second aspect, which is the library science. Please do not ignore it. How to write a reference using APA format. Practice how to write a reference. How to write a story if you are given a picture based on that. How do you develop a short story based on a picture that is given to you? If you check my past question papers, you will see this is another common questions that I give. I give you a small picture. Then I ask you to develop a story based on that picture. How do you do it? Let me give you an example. I give you a picture whereby that looks like this. You see a man is carrying a goat. One man is raising his hands. What comes to your mind? What do you think is happening here? What I want you to do here is this, is to develop a story, or let me put it this way, to narrate a story about this picture. Not for you to describe this picture for me. I'm not asking you, student, to tell me, hey, I can see a man carrying a goat. I can see a man shouting, who. That is not what I'm asking you. Develop a short story that can be read on, that can be used by pre-primary learners using this picture. So you can start with something like, once upon a time, there was a man who lives in the village. The name of the man is Lucas. Lucas owns a farm. So you start developing the story. At the end, when I read your story and the picture will go the same way. So what I have done is, this picture that you see here, I have developed a story based on that picture. So read my story and look at the picture and see if there is harmony. That is what I expect you to do when I ask you to develop a story using a picture. So read my story here. I'm not going to read everything for you during this presentation. I have only 45 minutes to 1 hour. And my studio engineer is already flashing me. My director is already saying it's time for me to leave the studio. Student, can you see that 45 minutes is not enough to guide you? But do you know what? IOL is the best when it comes to distance education. Do you have your Office 365? Have you installed your team? We are going to team up by meeting at team. So there is not the end of my contact with you. It doesn't mean after these 45 minutes I cannot assist you. No, I'm there to assist you for all the time. I am paid to do what I'm doing. So my service is for you. I'm going to give you more presentations. I'm going to give you more guide on team. I'll prepare some video. I will load them on team. So if you have not activated your Office 365, please contact your course coordinator. Have your Office 365 activated so that I can meet you on team, so that I'll be able to guide you further and more better than this, where we can have unlimited time to ourselves. For the time being, enjoy yourself, but remember, the examination is coming. Prepare yourself so that at the end of the whole story, Mr. Edu, we see you, my beloved student, with this beautiful black gown, by saying hallelujah, thank you IOL, I'm now a graduate. Till then, we meet again in this hall. Have a blessed, fruitful year and a successful examination. Thank you.